The wait is over. It's time for TigerTown Countdown. We're out here outside of Memorial Stadium, Death Valley. Braving the elements. It's about 40 degrees, a lot of wind here. Clemson takes on FSU at 3:30, but we're here until then. I'm Ashley Hodge alongside Matt Peterson, Wyatt Street, and Bradley Kendall, bringing you the best of college football. Week 11. This is our final episode, a little bittersweet, so hopefully this is our best one yet. So let's just dive right into it, right, guys?
Yeah, let's do it.
ESPN may be in Miami, and they're probably enjoying themselves in the hot weather. We're brave out here. We're brave enough to come out here and bring
we're real. We're real right now. Okay, so just like Leonard Fournette, Saquon Barkley won the Heisman this September.
Yeah.
Lost it in November, guys. He's not doing too well right now.
He really did. His last 3 games have been really tough. Now he's faced some stingy defenses, and I kind of credit the coaching staff for not really using him as much. That's kind of been James Franklin's fault. He's not really showcasing him very well. But Barkley's just been getting stopped. I mean, he's had that game against Iowa where he kind of showcased himself, but ever since then he hasn't really done much. So, like you said, Leonard Fournette had that one game where he couldn't get anything going last week, and it kind of was his downfall.
And the thing with Saquon Barkley, too, is he's only got 3 games that's over 100 rushing yards. And for me, as a running back, to be in the Heisman race, you got to do much better than that.
Yeah.
Oh, only 3 with 100 rushing yards is just not enough. It is not enough. And, like back-to-back bad games, 44 yards, then 63, that's not going to cut it in the Heisman race.
And when your team loses back-to-back games, too. I mean, that always plays a factor in the Heisman race. Now, he is more of a wide receiver, kind of. He's kind of like that Christian McCaffrey.
And a special teams back, too. With
and a special teams back. So he kind of does it all, but I just feel like it's a little bit too little too late right now for him.
I don't know. I disagree just a little bit. I mean, he has 864 yards rushing, 9 touchdowns. He has about 500 yards receiving. Like you said, he's more of a Christian McCaffrey kind of guy. Will he win the Heisman? Probably not. Like you said, he probably lost it. But I still think he's top 3, top 4 Heisman contender. He also has a passing touchdown. He's one of the most versatile players in college football, as you said, on the special teams. So I haven't ruled him out completely, but obviously there's better contenders out there than Saquon Barkley.
So who do you guys think is the front runner for this Heisman?
I think right now it's not Saquon Barkley losing it. It's just Baker Mayfield winning it. He's really taken a step up. I mean, this was his kind of the one year that he was really looking at to really showcase himself. He's got over 3,000 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and he's been consistent over the last few years. Hasn't gotten into trouble yet, and he's really he's torn apart those a little bit. He's torn apart those big 12 defenses, so that definitely helps his case.
For me, I'm going to go with a different running back. I'm going to give some love to Bryce Love, the Stanford running back. Everybody's been going crazy over Barkley, but hashtag Pac-12 After Dark over there. Bryce Love has been quietly tearing it up after last night's game. He is now first in the nation in rushing yards with 1,622, and he's got only one game that's below 100 rushing yards. So when we're talking about, Saquon Barkley only having 3 games with 100 rushing yards, all but one of Love's games are over 100 rushing yards. That is solid, especially considering, sure, he did miss one game due to injury, but missing that one game and he's still leading the nation in rushing yards, that's saying something.
I agree, and I think the thing that's really going to hold him back is the fact that, one, he plays on the West Coast, and that East Coast bias plays a factor in the Heisman voting.
That's one of the things that
Christian McCaffrey last year. Yeah.
Stanford's not having the best year they wanted to, and Love just plays, when people weren't watching.
Well, Lamar Jackson has proved you don't have to do great as a team to win the Heisman.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I will say Lamar Jackson was breaking records left and right.
True.
So, I mean, Bryce Love, while he's a great player, I think Mayfield right now has just taken a step up above. I think he's going to end up.
Yeah, I actually agree with Bradley. He already listed out all the stats. Besides, he's only thrown for less than 300 yards once, and he's only thrown for more than 2 picks once, and those were both against Oklahoma State in that shootout. But I have another kind of a dark horse. It's James Washington, the receiver of Oklahoma State. Will he win it? Like I said with Saquon Barkley, probably not. But he has over 1,100 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns, and he averages 22 yards a catch. That's crazy. That's 2 first downs every time he touches the ball. So, yeah, I mean, you have to give him some love. So.
I think you also have to give a lot of credit to Khalil Tate of Arizona. He's a quarterback. He was the backup quarterback for the first month of the season, and he's still putting up a lot of big numbers, 930 passing yards, over 1,000 rushing yards, 8 passing touchdowns, 9 rushing touchdowns. Clearly impressive. He's pretty much the guy that Arizona needs. He's the backbone of Arizona
He's
right
the second
now.
coming of Lamar Jackson. I
Pretty
kinda
much.
feel.
Yeah.
He's kind of taking that Sam Darnold approach, sit the first 3 games, and then just ball out the rest of the year.
Mhm.
It's working out for him, and hey, he saved Rich Rod's job at this point.
Yeah, he's put Arizona on the map. I mean, they're always a basketball school, and now they've never really been known for football that much.
While
but
their
now,
basketball team's
now
going
they're
under
coming up.
investigation, he's kind of risen the football program up, so good for them.
Yeah.
But the one thing that might hurt him, though, is the same thing that Bradley mentioned for Love, is the East Coast bias.
Yeah.
That's something that could play a factor here.
And he just started he hasn't played all the games. Like
True.
Yeah.
he was the backup, like you said. So he's not going to win it. But next year he could definitely be in
Certainly
the
a contender.
contention. Yeah.
Is there anyone else?
If I'm going to go on a sleeper pick, the guy that's not going to win, but the guy that's no one's really talking about, it's 2 guys. It's Will Greer from West Virginia.
Okay.
Leads the country in touchdowns right now with 32 total pass. He does have 10 interceptions. West Virginia's not as good as they want to be. But he's having a great year after transferring. He had that year off from the PED scandal.
Florida, yeah.
And then Jonathan Taylor at Wisconsin. I mean, he's still a freshman.
Yeah.
12 touchdowns, basically does everything for Wisconsin. They pretty much rely on him to get their offense going. And he's been great for him all year. Now he's playing some pretty inferior opponents, so that's been kind of tough for him. But 2 guys that no one really talks about that I really like.
Yeah, I like Jonathan Taylor too, and Josh Adams is
Yeah.
another pretty solid back.
All right, well, let's head it over to Evan for his first picks of the day.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Bear down. Welcome back for my 3rd trio of games on the year. I'm 4-2 right now, looking to make it 7-2 after today. Going to win you some money. Going to tell you who to pick and how to pick. So we're going to start real quick with Florida Atlantic at Louisiana Tech. This game 3:30 p.m. at Joe Aylett Stadium. Right now the Owls are a 6-point favorite, and according to ESPN FPI, they got a 57.5 chance to win. So this one should be a close one. The over-under right now is at 69.8 points, so you might see a lot of offense in this one. FAU started out the year 1-3. They've won 5 games in a row. They're 6-3 overall, undefeated in Conference USA, first in the East. They're led by redshirt junior Jason Driscoll. He's the younger brother of former Florida Gators quarterback Jeff Driscoll. He's got 1,000 yards in the air on the year, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks, but he's not the guy that's leading that offense. The guy that's leading that offense is going to be Devin Singletary. Sophomore running back, got over 1,200 yards, 19 touchdowns on the ground this year. He's rushed for over 100 yards in 7 straight games, including back-to-back 200-plus yard performances in his last 2 games. Already this year, with 3 games left to play, including today, he's got more attempts, yards, and touchdowns than all of last season combined. But the big thing that's going to win the game for the Owls today is going to be their defense. Their offense has scored 96 points off of turnovers this year, and their opponents on the entire year have only scored 7 points off of turnovers. So if they're going to turn the ball over, that defense is going to make sure that the other team does not get any points. On the other side of the ball, Louisiana Tech, a little bit up and down here. They've alternated wins and losses through the first 6 games of the year to sit them at 500. They're currently 4-5, 2-3 in Conference USA, sitting at 4th in the West. So a bit of a disappointing year for the Bulldogs there. 4 out of their 9 games this year have been decided by exactly 1 point, and they are 1-3 in those games. So if they somehow keep it close, I don't really like their chances. Their other 3 wins have come by 18 points or more, so they're either going to blow somebody out or it's going to be close and they're going to lose. So their opponents right now averaging 5 yards a carry, again with Devin Singletary, and that Owls rushing attack could be trouble for the Bulldogs. They're led by quarterback Jamar Smith, 56% completion percentage on the year, over 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's also the team's 3rd leading rusher, 211 net yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. All that goes to say, take the over, bet FAU. They're going to win this by way more than 6 points. It's going to be like 35-24 Owls over the Bulldogs. That's my first of 3 picks. Stay tuned for the other 2. They're going to be bigger and better. I'm going to kick it over to our correspondents, Sophia and Jay, and they're going to do their thing, and I'll see you in 2 seconds.
Maria Taylor, Kirkhurst Street, we are awfully jealous of you right now. You're in Miami, and we are in 40-degree weather in Clemson, South Carolina. Let's talk Iowa football. All right, Hawkeyes, you have caught our attention after Iowa's 55-24 win against the Week 10's 6th-ranked team, Ohio State. They bumped up to number 20 in the college football rankings. Do you think that Coach Ferentz can keep this going and keep up his resurgence of an amazing season?
Well, they've been really impressive the last 5 games. Looking at their schedule, I think they've dropped 2. One was at Northwestern in overtime, and then Michigan State. But the game against last week against Ohio State was really impressive. It was really the first time all year that they've had a big win. They've only beaten Iowa State this year with another big game, so I feel like there's still a lot left for them to prove. But then when you look at the flip side with their matchup this weekend at Madison with Wisconsin, they still have a lot left to prove too. There's a lot of people out there that still doubt the Badgers.
Huge game for both teams. Wisconsin's still trying to keep their ball rolling, and big game for Iowa to keep their contention for the playoffs. We saw Coach Chris told his Badger team that rankings did not matter, to look past that and keep focused on the end of the season, which I think is amazing advice to his team.
They've got to worry about a conference championship before they can
Absolutely.
start thinking about college football playoff berth. And I think for them, at the end of the day, this is more of a building season for them rather than trying to get to a big. I think they may have a chance of getting to a Big Six this year, but I still think that with the win with Ohio State this season, and if they're able to get it done this weekend in Madison against a team that's really been pretty good on defense. Like both of these schools, I think are only giving up slightly under 20 points a game, so it's really going to be, I think, a defensive slugfest. It's going to be lower scoring, but if they're able to go in there and neutralize Wisconsin's running game, I think that'll be really impressive. It'll be a really good statement.
Iowa's defense was able to completely capitalize Ohio State's offense in the most negative way. I mean, obviously they're 31-17 at the half. They're able to get the W. If they can keep that rolling, they're going to win in Madison today. That'll help their team a lot. We're going to kick it back to our panelists.
And we're back, and it's still just as cold as when we started here, but
Actually, I think it might have gotten colder.
might got a little colder.
Pretty windy.
We're still
happy.
we're still here. We're still
enjoying
smiling for now, at least.
It's good football weather.
Well, 2 weeks ago, the official college football rankings came out. It's been 2 weeks. Right now, Georgia's at number 1, Bama's at 2, Notre Dame's at 3, and Clemson is at 4. How do you guys feel about those rankings?
It's going to be a lot of shakeup this week. We've got
Yeah.
two top 10 matchups, so at least two.
Three two top end jobs. Yeah.
Three
Yeah,
top 10 matchups.
three.
So a lot of shakeup. Teams like towards the bottom with Wisconsin. Teams like not Washington anymore after they lost, but Michigan State. Teams that can really creep their way up. They got a lot to prove.
Yeah.
Going forward. I agree with the committee's rankings. I was pretty happy 1 through 8. I think the team that really has a lot to gain here is Miami.
Yeah.
You're going to have TCU and Oklahoma lose, and Miami can creep their way up after winning against Notre Dame. I think they got a lot
Exactly.
left ahead of them. They can make their move.
Yeah, I mean, I like the rankings as they are right now. I think the committee's gotten them right so far up to this point. I have no complaints, and a lot of it's going to wind up working itself out a lot with the rankings this week. This week has the potential to be a chaos week. If we have a lot of upsets, this top 10 could look drastically different come Tuesday. So it'll be fun to watch. There's a lot of teams with a lot to prove, so everybody's got to come out and do their job.
Yeah, for sure. I like how they did it. They value strength of schedule more than kind of reputation, aka putting Georgia ahead of Bama. But like you guys said, I agree. Everything looks pretty good. But after this weekend, there's going to be a lot of tough decisions to be made depending on who wins, who loses. So it'll be fun to see.
I do want to point out, Bradley mentioned Michigan State. They beat top 10 Penn State this weekend, 27-24. They jumped 12 spots in the rankings,
Yeah.
24 to 12.
That's right. Yeah.
They doubled
And
the ranking. Or
That's
cut
the
half, you
but
could
that's
say.
the biggest jump in the CFP rankings. So that's pretty impressive.
That's
The previous
insane.
high was 8 spots.
And if you want to talk about 2-loss teams, I mean, with all the chaos that's going to ensue, potentially, you could see a 2-loss team potentially creep their way in. I think
I mean,
Yeah.
teams to keep an eye on right now would be Auburn and Michigan State. I mean,
Auburn and
as I
Michigan
said
State,
before,
yeah.
Michigan State a lot ahead of them in terms of the Big Ten schedule. And I mean, Auburn's got probably the toughest remaining schedule in the country.
oh yeah, they got to play Georgia this weekend, and then they got to finish up against Alabama. If they win
Right.
out, they'll get into the conference championship where they would rematch Georgia, who by that point would presumably
Yeah.
be potentially top 5 again. So
So Gus Malzahn's got a lot to prove in
Yeah.
the next couple weeks if they want to prove that they're
Yeah.
a legit contender.
Well, what about Wisconsin? They're 9-0 right now. They haven't really played any ranked opponents. They're playing against Iowa as their first ranked opponent. So I feel like this is going to be
yeah.
the game that kind of sells them to the committee that they deserve to be a little higher, maybe not top 4, but at least giving some attention to them.
Hey, but I mean, you never know. I mean, in the short term, after the Iowa win against Ohio State, you see if Wisconsin's able to just beat up on Iowa, that's going to prove a lot. And now that Northwestern's creeping up, you're going to see Michigan creep up.
Right.
Wisconsin's got a lot of ranked games that they have a chance to win.
Wisconsin's schedule is the end of their schedule is turning into what the end of Alabama's schedule looks like. Alabama's schedule gets tougher towards the end. They had LSU, now Mississippi State, and then they finish up against a tough Auburn team. So Alabama's having to prove themselves at the end of the season. Wisconsin's going to have to do the same. If they can finish strong, win out, win the Big Ten, then they'll finish with a statement. They would force the committee to have to take notice.
Yeah.
Listen, undefeated Wisconsin team's not going to get left out. There's just
there's no
chance
way.
it's going to happen. Yeah.
Even with
Yeah.
a weaker strength of schedule.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they've played their schedule's very bad. I mean, I have it listed: Utah State, Florida Atlantic, Northwestern, Maryland, Indiana, Illinois. I could go on and on. But like you said, undefeated. If they stay undefeated, it'd be very, very tough to keep them out. So.
Well, right now the way that the football playoff structure is, it's the top 4 teams make it. If you're not in the 4, you're not in the playoffs, and you have to win 6 games to get into the bowl games. What do you guys think about that? There's a lot of debate on if it should be, 8 teams, a 16-team bracket. I personally like the 4 teams, but what do you guys think?
I love the 4 teams. You're going to see a lot more this year with conferences all wanting to be represented, especially with Notre Dame trying to crash the party that's going to leave another conference out.
Agreed.
To be honest, I love the way the system is now because you effectively have a play-in game. You've got Notre Dame playing Miami today. You've got TCU playing Oklahoma. So it's kind of already like an 8-team playoff.
Yeah.
I don't really see why you need to change it. It makes each week really that much more meaningful when you only have 4 teams.
I mean, I like 4 teams. I think it's a perfect number to start off with the playoff, but I think this year is presenting the best argument for potential expansion with the sheer number of teams in contention with Georgia and Alabama, Notre Dame in contention. You have Clemson, you have Miami, Oklahoma, TCU in contention. Then there's the potential of Wisconsin, Auburn, even Michigan State could creep into this mix depending on the way the rest of the dominoes fall. So there's so many teams in contention. I like the idea of 6. I think 6 is a very good number because one of the biggest arguments I've heard against going to 8 is you put less emphasis on the regular season. Well, with 6, you still have a lot of emphasis on the regular season because the top 2 teams get a bye. So if you take a loss at some point, you still have that mindset of, well, we can still get in if we win out, but you don't get that bye. You don't get that valuable bye. So I like 6 teams. You get more teams represented, give 2 more teams a chance. You have more fun, and there's still that emphasis on the regular season.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Wyatt here. Each conference winner, if it was 6, would be represented plus a wild card, whether that be another
an ideal scenario.
Yeah. Ideal, whether it be Notre Dame or some other really good team from a stacked conference. But if they go to 6 teams, there wouldn't really be any conference champ snubs, such as like TCU and Baylor, 2014, Penn State last year, or potentially whoever's going to be left out this year. It's going to be 1, 2, or 3 teams. So, like Bradley said, this might be the best case this year of kind of arguing for more teams. I liked it started at 2, now it's going to 4. I have a feeling it'll go to 6 or go to 8 more sooner than later.
And I think eventually the group that's really going to have an influence on changing it to 8 would be the group of 5 teams. Some of those unrepresented teams, you got UCF that's trying to creep their way into a group, a New Year's 6 game.
We saw Western Michigan last year. They felt they deserved the chance.
While a New Year's 6 game is a great consolation prize, ultimately you want to try to make the playoff. And at this point, it doesn't seem like there's any chance for those teams to make it.
No way. There's no way.
That would be the only reason I would see to change the system.
I think the thing that I like so much about it, though, is that there's no room for error. Like, there's no room for error right now. Like, you can lose maybe 1 game and potentially get in if a lot of other teams fall, but you really can't. You really have to have those perfect seasons. And also, they're college athletes. If you expand it and make it, 8 tears or 16 teams, you got to play more games.
Yeah,
and that just leaves more room for injury. Coaches are going to put players or rest them during the regular season to save them for those big games, those big moments. Or, just there's a lot of things, and, players already don't want to play in those New Year's 6 games, or not New Year's 6 games, but just the bowl games anyway. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that there's a reason that it's 4 teams, and if you expand it anymore, it's just going to make the season that much longer. And, yeah, we don't have the Cinderella moments like college basketball, but, that's what makes college football different than basketball.
Yeah,
you don't need that.
You talked about making every game matter, and there's no room for error. If you have 8 teams, you're kind of making it more like the NFL. You're kind of watering down.
Well, that's why I say go to 6, because then you maybe have slightly more room for error, but it's not enough to matter because, like I said, with the buys, everyone would want the bye.
Yeah.
If you take that loss, then the bye is almost essentially eliminated for you. You could still get in, but your road becomes that much tougher because you have
I feel
the
like
extra
the bye, though, you might not want. Some teams might not want that, though.
Well,
you lose the momentum of the season, and you already have breaks in between games, and I don't know how valuable the bye would be.
But on the flip side, you'd also gain such an advantage by having that bye. And you talked about not wanting to play as many games. You come off a hard-nosed game against a tough defense, and you're all banged up. It's going to be tough to even play that next
especially if that game you get a team that played a tough quarterfinal game, and they're like you said, banged up.
Yeah.
That puts so much advantage to you because you've had that time to rest up.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they're trying to eliminate with the playoff is that advantage. That's not what they want anymore.
Right.
So I think that's why they put it at 4.
Potentially.
Well, they are college students or are college athletes. They don't have those, resources. We obviously have great facilities, but some programs don't have those,
like Purdue
resources, resting, therapy, just like, one-on-one physical therapy and stuff like that. So I just think that it's just easier with 4 teams, less room for injuries and stuff like that. But we're going to head over to Evan for one of his other picks. Fine.
All right, everybody, once again, welcome in Bear pick number 2 of 3. Going to keep it rolling here with an FCS matchup, Central Connecticut at Duquesne. Now, why are you picking an FCS game? Well, a couple of reasons, but the main one that got my attention were the mascots in this one. Central Connecticut are the Blue Devils, and as we all know, Duquesne are the Dukes. So we have the Dukes and the Blue Devils playing today, and I just thought that was fun. So noon on ESPN3, you're going to want to tune into this one. It'll be played at Arthur J. Rooney Athletic Field, seating capacity 2,200, so if you didn't get a ticket, there's probably not room for you now. The winner of this game wins at least a share of the Northeast Conference title and an automatic FCS playoff berth. So a lot on the line for both of these teams. For Central Connecticut, they come into this game 6-3 overall, lost their first 3 games of the year to Syracuse, Fordham, and Youngstown State. They're currently on a 6-game winning streak. 22 of their 30 offensive touchdowns of the year have been scored on the ground, so you might think their rushing attack is what's going to win this game. However, their offense is a little bit more balanced than meets the eye. They average 178 rushing yards per game and 172 through the air, so even distribution there. Their leading rusher, senior Cameron Nash, got 152 carries on the year. That was good for 773 yards and 10 touchdowns. Through the air, they're led by quarterback junior Jacob Dogala, 52% completion percentage, almost 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns, 7 picks. He's the team's 4th leading rusher with 152 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground as well. For Duquesne, they dropped their season opener, then rattled off 7 wins in a row, and then they lost to Liberty last week, leaving them at 7-2. They are led by graduate transfer Tommy Stewart. He comes to the Dukes by way of Boise State. He is 68% completion percentage through the air, 1,900 yards, 23 touchdowns, 6 picks. He's also got 240 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. Just this last week, he was named to the FCS Walter Payton Award watch list, which is given out to the most outstanding FCS player in the country. It's basically their version of the Heisman, so he's going to be leading the way for them offensively today. For the Dukes, out of their 298 points that they've scored on the year, 148 of those have been scored in the second quarter, so they're going to do their damage just before halftime. They average 416 yards of offense, 216 passing, 200 on the ground. I think it's just going to be too much offense for the Dukes here. I think they're going to take down Central Connecticut and get that driver's seat for that Northeast Conference title. I like them to win this one 28-17. I couldn't find a spread on this one, but if I did, I would have taken the over anyway. So take Duquesne over Central Connecticut in that FCS pre-playoff matchup. 28-17 is my score prediction. So that's 2 out of 3 games down. I'll come at you with the third one in 2 segments. Going to kick it back over to Sophia and Jay.
Jay Smith, I got a little story for you. I was walking home from the library. It was a crisp, clear night, and I was counting the stars, but I could only count 5. And it reminded me a lot about Clemson's 2018 recruiting class. 5 stars all throughout. I mean, the commits here. We got 11 hard commits. Let's talk about quarterback Trevor Lawrence. He can launch it. Defensive end Xavier Thomas, wide receiver Darion Kendrick. The future is bright for the Tigers. Their recruiting game is unlike any others, and that's because of the man Dabo Swinney. He's loyal, he's personable. Him and Venables make a heck of a team. Speaking of Coach Venables, we're also welcoming in Jake Venables, son of Coach Venables. So I'm interested to see how he helps out the defense. Who are you most excited to see this season or next season with our 2018 recruiting class?
Trevor Lawrence, he's the highest rated quarterback to come into Clemson. He's come into any school in several years. Honestly, if Clemson had signed a 5-star 6 or 7 years ago, it would have been a huge deal. The whole campus would have thrown a parade. But that's become the norm here thanks to Dabo Swinney and the recruiting process and everything that he's put in place at this school. This program has really become a top-tier place to come play football.
It's not just like a 10-minute kind of fame deal. No, it is a tradition here at Clemson.
And what's great now is he's instilling in the guys realization that they have to work to start here. Like a guy like Trevor Lawrence may not be able, as good as he is and as many records as he's broken back in Georgia, he may not be able to just show up and get the starting job immediately. There's such a level of just commitment to the best is the standard mantra that Dabo loves to preach, and that's on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. I mean, you see the co-coordinators with Tony Elliott, Jeff Scott, and the work that they've really been able to do, because a lot of people were worried about the offense after Chad Morris left several years back. They weren't sure if we were going to be able to maintain that consistency on that side of the ball. The defense has just been amazing under Venables, and I still believe he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country.
Absolutely.
So I think when you look at the defense getting another 5-star DN with Xavier Thomas, and then you've got Trevor Lawrence coming in at quarterback. The future's bright on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely.
But I think it's really just a huge testament to what Dabo's been able to build here within the program.
Absolutely. I can't wait to watch Trevor Lawrence here right behind us, actually, in Death Valley. He has the perfect quarterback stature. He's 6'6" at 209 pounds. He can run every route possible, and he can zip it. And high school quarterbacks shouldn't be able to do what he does right now. He's going to be such an amazing contributor to what we already have. Kelly Bryant has shown consistent productivity in his passing game, and that's only going to get better with these 5-star players. We're going to kick it back to the panelists, and we'll have our last segment with our pick'ems.
And we're back. So since we're outside of Clemson Stadium, why don't we just talk about Clemson and their championship run? Before the season, though, there's a lot of talk against Clemson making a repeat. It's really hard to repeat the national championship, and they were coming off their 2 best seasons in program history, 28-2 total. That was their record. And they lost Deshaun Watson, they lost Jordan Leggett, they lost Mike Williams, they lost Artavis Scott. They lost a lot of key players. They lost Wayne Gallman. They lost pretty much. They lost their offense. They lost all the key players.
And the year before that, they lost their defense.
But they have Brett Venables. They have Christian Wilkins. They have Dexter Lawrence back. They have a lot of key players still back. They have Deion Kane. They have they have Hunter Renfrow. I can list them on and on. And Kelly Bryant, worked under Deshaun Watson, so I'm pretty sure that's a good practice for him anyway.
Pretty good mentor.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that Clemson can make it into the championship? Do you think they can stay in the top 4, win the first game, make it to that championship?
They got a really good chance, and what they've really done is they've reloaded, not rebounded, or instead of reloaded, instead of rebuilding, they have reloaded. That's
there
what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
The last 3 games, I think they got a really good chance. In regards to all the other teams in the country right now, I think they have probably the easiest path right now. They got the Florida State game this weekend. Obviously, they have the Citadel, which should be a win, and then South Carolina, which is looking like it might be a little bit tougher, as they only have 2 losses this year. But
especially going to South Carolina.
Yeah, in the ACC championship game, we see Miami is really making a statement right now, so they're going to have a good chance to compete with them. But I think out of the top teams right now, Clemson might have the easiest path going forward.
Yeah.
So I think they got a really good chance.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Yep.
Repeating in any sport is difficult, especially in college football, especially with the system we have, especially considering all the weapons we lost on offense. Going into this season, I knew defense was going to be key for this season. I wasn't expecting another playoff or championship run. I was expecting a run at like the Orange Bowl, The ACC winner gets in, we take that slot in the Orange Bowl. But now we have a legitimate chance to get into the playoff and make another run. And, we're playing Miami in the ACC championship, assuming we take care of business today. That's going to be a tough matchup, but I think it's one that we could certainly win. And then if we do win it, make the playoff, we're going to get some mixture of most likely like Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, maybe of Wisconsin or somebody like
Oklahoma.
that. So it's going to maybe Oklahoma, yeah. So it's going to be tough if we do get into the playoff. It's never going to be easy, but that's when the cream rises to the top. This team is certainly able to do it. I think the key will be the defense. If the defense can stay healthy and just play up to their potential as one of the best, if not the best defense in the nation, led by the best defensive coordinator in college football, then I think this team can make a legitimate run at a potential repeat.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the year, I don't know how many people thought we would be back in this situation. I wasn't that confident in Kelly Bryant. I've been proven wrong, thank God. He's been able to – his running ability is one of the keys, I think, to us being successful. He's one of our best runners. He's still a good thrower, but he can often overthrow it sometimes. I think, like you guys said, I think Clemson might have one of the easiest out of the top 10 or so to get into the playoffs. They have to beat FSU today. Can't really take any team for granted because FSU is trying to spoil our season. They know what position we're in, but they're going to try to play spoiler. Citadel should be an easy FCS game, and South Carolina that'll be a lot tougher than people think. 2 years ago, we were supposed to blow them out. We won. We won by 5. It was really like 11 or 12, but we still very close game to a 3-9 South Carolina team. So you can never overlook the rivalry game. And then, like you guys said, Miami in the ACC championship game. The crowd in Bank of America Stadium will be mostly Clemson, just because we're closer. Our fans show up more, and their stadium was one of the. They don't have a lot of home fans at their stadium. I doubt how many people will be able to travel from Miami. There'll be some, but not nearly as much as Clemson. So I think we have a very good shot. And teams like SEC teams like Georgia, Auburn, a lot of them are kind of going to play each other. A lot of the Big 10 or Big 12 teams, so a lot of them might eliminate themselves. So I think Clemson has a very, very good chance.
Yeah, Clemson's path, we've talked about it. It's pretty straightforward. When most of them seem within reach, but think you also have to look back at the NC State game because we started out really poorly. Kelly Bryant missed his first 5 passes. He was 2 for 8 for 17 yards. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns, so he was good on his feet, but his passing game wasn't strong. Our defense was not very strong, but somehow we managed to win. And I think that that's what you have to really take into consideration, going forward, especially, once if they make it to the Final Four teams. But they found a way to win against NC State at NC State in that environment against, their strong 7 front. Most of them
one of the
were,
best in the country.
Yeah, best, and they were, senior guys, all seniors or or redshirt seniors. So to me, that's what really sells Clemson to be that championship team again.
And that game kind of reminded me a lot of the Florida State game last year.
Yeah.
It was one of the last tests they had before the tail end of the season. It was kind of what vaulted them to the rest of their success for the rest of the year. I think really what's going to be the key is not having the defense get exposed. And they got exposed a little bit against Syracuse, a little bit against NC State. A lot of that plays a testament to the offense not producing as well as they should have. Kelly Bryant obviously needs to be healthy. We need that. We've seen what can happen if he gets banged up. So it's really going to be, kind of an entire group effort. If the offense is able to stay on the field and keep drives moving along, that helps the defense for sure, provides them rest, gets them ready to play their next possession. So it's going to be interesting. I think, like I said, I think Clemson's got a really good chance to make it. It's all there for them. All they got to do is just keep winning.
Because one of the things that hurt the defense against Syracuse was the offense didn't help them out. It put a lot of pressure on the defense. I think, if Kelly Bryant can get a little more accurate with the downfield passes, if we can rely a little bit more on the running game, give ETN, Feaster, those guys more carries, start running the ball a little more and get that going and get that effective, that'll help out the defense a lot.
Yeah.
And they're one of the most balanced teams. Let's not forget, not like Oklahoma, who relies solely on offense.
Yeah.
They really control the ball well offensively and defensively. So I would have faith on both ends of the ball going forward the rest of the year.
Right.
Well, going forward, it all starts today against FSU, the 3-5 team. Haven't had, as good of a season as expected, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's get to Evan.
All right, guys, welcome back. Bear down, pick number 3. It's a little cold, it's a little windy, and I smell a campfire, so I know where I'm going to be hibernating after this. But real quickly, my last pick here, this one ought to throw you off. Slippery Rock University at Kutztown. We got the Rock and the Golden Bears. If you didn't know who they were, you would assume Dwayne Johnson was taking on Marshawn Lynch's alma mater, and you'd wonder why the heck that was going on. This game, 12:05 p.m. from University Field at Andre Reed Stadium. Andre Reed, of course, the NFL Hall of Fame wide receiver, spent 15 years with the Buffalo Bills. He's a Kutztown alumni. This is about an hour and 15 minutes outside of Philly with a 5,600 capacity at the stadium. So it's going to be senior day, it's Hall of Fame day, and it's military appreciation day for the Golden Bears here at home. So a good game on tap for you outside of Pittsburgh. Both of these teams are members of the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. Right now they are led by Indiana University of Pennsylvania, or IUP for short. You might recognize that name from seeing it on the ESPN bottom line. The Crimson Hawks are 10-0 leading the conference right now, so go IUP. Both of these schools have enrollments of approximately 8,500, so their combined student body is still not as big as Clemson. But Slippery Rock started out 6-0. They lost 2 straight, and then they are back on the winning track 2 in a row in their last 2 games. They are led by redshirt junior quarterback Tanner Gary, 61% completion percentage, over 3,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. He's got the 2nd most passing yards and the 6th most passing touchdowns in all of Division II. The defense, however, for Slippery Rock has allowed over 2,000 rushing yards on the year, so not very good at stopping the run. For the Golden Bears of Kutztown, they lost their season opener and then every 4th game after that. So they are 7-3 right now. Their leading passer, sophomore Colin DeGalbo, he's got a 62% completion percentage, 1,900 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks. He's also the team's 3rd leading rusher, 81 carries, 379 yards, 4 touchdowns, so a bit of a dual threat there. Their defense is a little bit better than Slippery Rock, allowing 18 points per game, less than 1,000 rushing yards on the year, and they've got 16 picks. So a good defense for Kutztown. I don't see much rushing for either of these teams in this game. The best rusher for either team is going to be redshirt senior Isaiah Neely for Slippery Rock, 686 yards on the year and 11 touchdowns. So he's averaging almost 70 rushing yards per game. I think this game's going to be won through the air, and I think it's going to be done by Kutztown. I think their defense is just too good. I'm going to take them 42-30 over the Rocks. So be sure to check the final score. Google around for that one. Slippery Rock at Kutztown. That's going to be my Bear Down pick of the week. I got Kutztown winning by 12. So I'm going to go 3 for 3 this week and bring my overall record to 7-2. Hopefully win some of you guys some money. But I'm going to kick it back over to Jay and Sophia for their final segment and some pick'em.
We're back with our last segment of the day. Let's talk some pick'ems. Georgia at Auburn today. This is an interesting game for Kirby Smart where he could have been on the opposite side of the sidelines if he wouldn't have made the decision to go to Georgia in 2012. I think he's been the perfect fit for Georgia, and it's really shown a lot this year. I think Georgia's going to bring home the win 37-21.
Wow, so you feel like they get it done pretty convincingly. I don't know.
I do.
See, this game's at Auburn. Auburn is used to big games. I mean, Georgia's looked impressive all season. They were able to win last year 13-7. They had a pick 6 against Georgia. They actually did not, Auburn did not give up any offensive touchdowns. So I think this will be a rather low-scoring affair. But I think that the key to this one is being able to neutralize Georgia's running game. If Auburn is able to get the crowd into it at kickoff, neutralize Georgia's running attack, they stand a pretty good chance at making this a 4-quarter ball game. I think at the end of the day, though, because it's on the road, I think Auburn's going to be able to get the win. I think they're going to be able to beat Georgia.
The Plains in Auburn are an amazing atmosphere. I do agree with that. If they can get their crowd rowdy, I mean, that'll hype them up. Georgia, this is the first time they've been number 1 since 1982. And I think they're going to hold that stamina for sure. They don't want to give that up against Auburn, who is number 10. Notre Dame, Miami, the first time these teams have seen each other since 1990. This is going to be a fun ACC matchup.
This is the first time that they've both been ranked in the top 10 and faced each other since 1989. So this is a huge game. This is reminiscent of the Catholics versus Convicts game of the 80s.
Yeah, Notre Dame's trying to keep their stance, as well as Miami. Miami's undefeated, where Notre Dame has 1 loss. This is going to be...
one loss, though, is to the number 1 team in the country, Georgia, by only a point. So...
I'm going with Mark Riggs Hurricanes over there in Miami.
You know, for me, looking at Miami, they're undefeated, and we talked about this a lot on different Tiger Vision shows all season long about whether or not Miami is for real. They seem to have trouble stringing together long drives. Their offense really hasn't been able to maintain the level of consistency that makes me comfortable, but their defense is back.
Absolutely.
You saw on the sidelines for the Virginia Tech game, they held Virginia Tech to under 100 rushing yards. I think they had 4 turnovers in the game, a couple fumbles, and maybe a couple interceptions. Really neutralized Virginia Tech for the majority of that game. So I think the U is back. I'm going with the U. I think the Canes get it done. I think this is a huge win for Mark Rick and the program.
All right, let's talk about the game that's going to happen right behind us.
Most important game
the
of the week.
most important game of the week. I don't know
Florida
about
State
that one.
visiting Clemson. It's like Dabo said in his press conference on Tuesday. The implications, the stakes for this game for Clemson have not changed. The winner of whoever wins this game for Clemson, it determines who's going to go to the ACC championship for their division.
This has been a prolonged ACC rivalry for quite some time. Jimbo Fisher, I mean, obviously has not had the season that he's wanted.
Well, they've been decimated with injuries, but I still feel like they're going to get, Dabo reiterated this on Tuesday, they're going to get FSU's best shot. I mean, looking in the last 10 years of this rivalry, it's tied 5-5. So this is always a competitive game. I think there's a lot of people out there that aren't expecting Florida State to show up for this one. But remember, they're playing for a chance to be bowl eligible. So I still think that Florida State's going to show up, they're going to show out, and if they catch Clemson sleeping, this game could be interesting really late.
Absolutely. Quarterback James Blackman, what he's going to have to do to win this game, he's going to have to be
avoid the front line for Clemson.
Right. He's going to have to be extremely urgent on the offense. He needs to compete with Kelly Bryant's passing game, where he has a ton of yards with that.
Well, I mean, they just need to he just needs to manage the system. He doesn't need to try and throw the deep ball too much. He just needs to get some high percentage completion throws early in the game, get his confidence up, and if they're able to string together a couple of long drives and their defense is able to neutralize Kelly Bryant the first quarter or so, again, I think it could be an interesting ball game. I don't expect this one to be too lopsided. I'm going to go with Clemson in this one, 38-31, but I still feel like that FSU is going to give Clemson their best shot.
7-point game. Okay.
It's gonna be tight.
You got some faith in the Seminoles. I'm going with the Clemson Tigers. I think it's going to be over by the first half. I really do.
I sure hope it is, because I'm cold, so it'd be nice to get back in the dorm and warm up.
Not a blowout, but I'm guessing 37-10. I think our defense has got it going on. I mean, we've seen that time and time again in the past 10 weeks.
And the
so.
defense is great whenever they're able to show up. But there's been times this season where, for the NC State game, they got just lit up by NC State's offense in the first half. They were able to come back in the second half, played a lot better, but the inconsistencies that I've seen in defense make me think that FSU is going to be able to take advantage of that. And you might see schemes, play calls from FSU that you haven't seen all season, because I'm sure they've circled this game on their calendar. They want to beat Clemson in Death Valley. There's a lot at stake on the field tonight.
Absolutely. This is a big game for Jimbo. He's had to really reinvent the way he coaches. He's an offensive guy. We saw him at FSU. He was the quarterback coach. He was the offensive coordinator after that, getting the head coach position in 2010. And after Francois getting hurt, he has had to reinvent himself, and that might show up today. Hopefully they can get some points on the board. I think they will, but I still got the Tigers.
Always going with Clemson.
All right, we're going to go back to our panelists.
And we're back, and we're getting right into the holiday spirit with our rendos. It's still pretty cold out here, but we're all still smiling, I think. And we got a special guest here. We got the one and only Thomas Marshall. He is the reason that we are here today on this show.
I don't know.
Hey. Just accept it. But he's the one that has worked the hardest all summer long, or spring too, to get this plan into action, to be right here, right now, right today on our season finale of this show. So we just want to give him a special shout out, special thank you for all of his hard work and for keeping us all in line for all of these long hours. But he is also the person that has made us wear business casual to every interview, every meeting, all the shows.
I
and he's in a sweatshirt right now.
You guys look great. You know, I'm
What's up with that, Thomas?
I don't know what's going on.
Keep yourself comfortable. You've done a lot
The
of work.
creator of the show gets special privilege.
Yes. But I do have one question for you.
Yes, go for it.
So, what has been your favorite part about this whole experience? I'm sure it's been very stressful, a lot of sleepless nights. But what has been the best part about this?
This sounds cliche. It's not everyone. Working with you guys, honestly.
We've really
gotten to work together. I know you guys on a personal level now, and it's the best thing.
We literally could not be closer right now.
Yeah, we're not. We're very close.
I'm very happy about it because it's warmer.
Yes.
And what was your inspiration for this show?
I was like, I love College Game Day. I've been watching it since I was like 3 years old. The best thing in the world. I said I want to do it myself, because why not have it every week? You know, why not let us do it? And we're on the student run TV network, so I said let's go for it.
Good deal. Awesome.
It's been fun.
Yep.
Well, for everyone here, another thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you.
We're gonna make
the sound
Thomas.
of the chains for me.
Yes, exactly. We did that on purpose. But we're gonna have Thomas join us in for the college picks this week. So let's start with Florida.
All right, very quickly, noon, CBS. I've ordered these games from level of importance. The first ones are less important, and as we go down the list, they're going to get more important. Noon, CBS, this SEC snooze fest. I'm calling it the Steve Spurrier SmackDown Classic. We got the good-for-nothing Gators and the clueless Chickens, Florida at South Carolina.
I guess I'll start off. I'll go with South Carolina. I know I'm from Columbia. They're not that bad this year. You know, Florida's kind of bad, so let's go with South Carolina.
I'm going to go with South Carolina, too. It pains me to say it. Florida has 126th ranked first quarter scoring team. That's dead last in FBS. So they're going to be shut out in the first quarter. South Carolina's going to jump ahead. Sky Moore's having a great year for them. I'm going to go with the Gamecocks.
He's good.
I bleed orange, so it pays me to say this, but I got to go with South Carolina too. I mean, Florida has just been garbage this season. They don't have consistency at the QB position. South Carolina does. I think that consistency pays off for them.
Yeah, I definitely have to go with South Carolina. Florida has a weak offensive line. They can't decide on their quarterback. And after firing their head coach, usually that gets a team fired up and ready to go and hopefully win that next game. And they just did not showcase that at all last week. So I got to go with South Carolina.
I never thought it would be a clean sweep in favor of South Carolina, but I guess that's what it's going to be. I'm picking South Carolina. They have Jake Bentley. Florida has Felipe Franks, kind of. So that's the turning point. Yeah,
we'll find out.
Yeah,
that one might be in the running for worst quality game of the week. If you tune into that one, I feel bad for you.
Good luck.
Up next, noon, ABC. We got the Whiny Wolves and the Eager Eagles, eager to make a bowl game. That is Dirty Doran and the Towel Thieves versus AOK Adazio and Co. Number 23 NC State at Boston College.
Let's go with NC State. They played Clemson tough last week. I like NC State. Don't really like them, but they're just a better team, so let's go for them.
Yeah, I got to go NC State too. Their losses have come against really good teams. You know, BC, they've been 5-0 when they've had a good third down efficiency, 0-4 when they're not, and NC State's really good at defending that on third downs. I'm going to go with NC State in this one.
I'm also taking the Wolfpack. I think after 2 tough losses back to back, they rebound this week. They're fired up. They're ready to go. I like the Jake Finley and Harmon connection, quarterback wide receiver. They've put up a lot of good numbers together. I think it pays off again this week.
All right, I got to go against you guys on this one. I really have to pick Boston College, but not just because
The homer pick.
not just because it's a hometown team, but they're red hot. Their offense has been fantastic. They have just somehow basically come from the ground up, really. They've come from nothing.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't expect them to even be in this position. If they win today against NC State, they're going to be second place in the ACC Atlantic. Not something I expected. And also, too, for Clemson fans, there's a reason you want to pick BC here, because if BC wins, the game starts at 12. So if they win, there's a chance that we could be division champions before kickoff.
Ooh.
So
Why not?
you got to go
Why
for
not?
Boston College
Why
there.
not?
But overall, I think that they've just have way too much momentum to really let NC State do anything with their team.
I'm going to have to agree with Ashley on this. I'm also picking Boston College. They're hot. They're usually terrible. They're not as terrible this year. They've had close games with Clemson up until the fourth quarter, and Virginia Tech. They've beaten Louisville, Florida State, and they've also NC State's had 2 heartbreaking losses to us and to Notre Dame. I still think they're going to be caught up with those losses, especially against us when they could have beat us potentially 2 years in a row, and it just didn't work out for them. So I think Boston College. It's at Boston College, so I'm going to pick the Eagles.
Yeah, I think this game sets up perfectly for an upset. I'd pick the Eagles, too, if I was on the panel. You know, in Chestnut Hill, off a bye, and I just don't like NC State much at this point. So fly, Eagles, fly. This next game, 3:30 ABC, we got one team looking to foil another team's playoff hopes, and the other team, home team, looking to prove that they belong in the playoff discussion. The hard-nosed Hawkeyes and the built-up Badgers, number 20 Iowa at number 8 Wisconsin.
Wisconsin is trash, people. I need you to realize this. They're terrible. Just because they're undefeated, it
That's
doesn't
a
mean
hot
anything.
take.
They have not played anyone. Iowa all the way.
Not so fast, my friend. Badgers taking it, Madison. Jonathan Taylor is healthy again.
Not
He's
gonna
a stud.
happen.
He's what
Agreed.
galvanizes the team. Badgers, one step closer to the playoff.
I'm buying into the Badgers as well. I'm buying into the Badgers. This
Why did I
defense
hire
is
these
only,
people?
The defense for Wisconsin has only allowed 267.8 yards per game. That is pretty stingy.
0.8.
And I think it's stingy again today.
I'm going with Badgers, too. Honestly, I think this game is going to come down to third down conversions, and Wisconsin leads the nation in that third down conversion percentage. So I think it's the Badgers, and, you know, they're 9-0. I think they're going to get the win, and that's just going to be more on their resume for the playoff committee to look at.
I guess Thomas and I are the only logical people on this panel.
We are.
Picking the upset.
See after the game what happens.
You
Picking the
were
upset. Yeah, I'm picking Iowa. They're hot. Obviously, they just beat Ohio State. They were very at the very bottom in terms of at the beginning of the year. They've risen up. They barely lost to Penn State. I'm sure all of you remember that. They lost by 2 points on a last-second play. They barely lost to Michigan State, and they barely lost to Northwestern. Nathan Stanley, their quarterback, is hot. He's got 1,900 yards, 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So I think they're going to pull the upset. Wisconsin, I listed out some of the people they played. Not very good teams. I'm not going to list them again. So Iowa for the W.
All right, 12-20 on the ACC network. These two schools are 0-2 with a combined record versus Clemson this year. It's the tussle of the Tech schools, the Fighting Gobblers versus the Rambling Wreck, number 17 Virginia Tech at Georgia Tech.
Ooh, I like Georgia Tech because it's in Atlanta.
No
you know,
way.
Robbie Dot, that's a tough place to play. The option, I really like. I know they didn't play us well. We're a good team, you know, so that's why they didn't play us well, but I like Georgia Tech.
I don't see why you like the option. They've really not been able to run it lately. Virginia Tech has the best rushing defense in the
Yes.
entire ACC, so I'm going to go with VT on this one.
I'm agree with Bradley yet again. I am not a fan of the option. It didn't work against Clemson, and it won't work against Virginia Tech today. The losing streak stretches to 3.
Smart man on the right over here.
Yeah, I'm going with Virginia Tech too, honestly. Just their defense. They lead the ACC, like Bradley said, in total defense. They've only given up 200 rushing yards twice this season. So I think
Good stat. Good
it's
stat.
Virginia
Yeah.
Tech. Virginia Tech for me.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia Tech lost
Hey,
to
that was
Virginia.
our homework. Was come with stats from Thomas
Ooh.
Marshall.
That's what I do.
We
gotta
got
make him
stats.
proud. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Sorry about
Georgia
that.
Tech, they lost to Virginia last week. That's not good. Virginia's very bad, and they're about to lose to Virginia Tech, the second team from Virginia. Virginia Tech only allow 3.4 yards per carry, and if the only thing you're doing is carrying the ball you're not going to get first downs. You're not going to get touchdowns doing it like that. So I think Virginia Tech, tough for the win.
Hey, Virginia is 6-3. How dare you disrespect
Yeah.
Bronco Mendenhall
Give the
like
Cavs
that?
Respect on their name.
They're giddy up. It's Bronco ball, baby.
That's a good point, Wyatt.
Noon on Fox. We got a Big Ten brawl. Sparty Squad and Brutus's boys. Number 12, Michigan State in the horseshoe at number 13, Ohio State.
I like Michigan State. I'm upsets this week. You know, they came off, had a good upset against Penn State last week. I just like them to upset again. They're playing well. They got the momentum, and they're on a winning streak right now. I got to go with Michigan
I
State.
want to talk about a chip on your shoulder. How about 16-point underdogs for Sparty? That's disrespect. I love what Michigan State's doing, coming off a great win against Penn State. And Ohio State's struggling. JT Barrett just can't figure things out. I'm going to go Michigan State on the road.
Yeah, I'm also taking Sparty in this one.
Wow.
They're a little underrated this year. They've beaten Michigan and Penn State. I'm gonna give them the clean sweep over the big three there. I'm giving them a win over OSU, and they're only allowing 20 points per game on defense. I think it's another bad game for JT Barrett today.
Oh gosh, okay, I'm going against you guys again. I gotta say Ohio State. Not that I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed by Michigan State overall. Obviously, they made that. They just had a great game against Penn State.
sure.
But Ohio State is coming off an incredibly embarrassing loss to Iowa, and I think that has to play into this game and how they're going to perform today, because not one single person in that locker room can be happy about that game.
You're right.
So
You're right.
I think they're just going to come out and hopefully get things going.
Yeah, I'm picking the Buckeyes as well. Michigan State, I think they're going to be too high from beating Penn State. They beat them by a field goal last week, and I think they're going to be on that cloud nine. I don't know if they're going to be exactly focused. It's at Ohio State. That's one of the other reasons that I'm picking them, home field advantage. So I think Ohio State will win. They'll win barely.
I will say Urban Meyer's never lost back-to-back games before. All good streaks come to an end at some point.
It's the
so.
first time for everything.
I didn't know that. Wow.
All right,
That's pretty
noon, ESPN2 got some Big 12 action in Ames. Rudolph and the Rough Riders against the Chaotic Cyclones. Number 15, Oklahoma State at number 21, Iowa State.
Oklahoma State. Mason Rudolph's pretty good. Heisman candidate, maybe. Maybe that's a stretch. I don't know. But I like
It's
Oklahoma
not-
State.
no.
James Washington, if he's healthy, he's a leading receiver in the entire country. It's going to be huge for them. Iowa State ranks at the bottom in terms of explosive plays. Oklahoma State's at the top. I'm going with the Cowboys.
Let's give it another one for the Cowboys. Mason Rudolph, like you said, the difference maker today. 3,314 passing yards, 27 touchdowns. Pretty solid stats for the year. Iowa State, I think they're out of upsets.
Gosh, I'm going against you guys again on this one. I think that this game is going to be
Hater.
extremely close, and I'm not too confident in my decision here, but I think it's going to come down to the second half, and Iowa State has proven that they can shut any offense down in the second half. They've outranked opponents 97-24, so you can't undermine that stat. If they can play well from the get-go, I think that they can come out and pull off another
Sure.
upset.
Maybe.
You're just
May
drinking
have-
Gatorade,
may
all
You
right?
know what? I got to.
Yeah, I mean,
Gotta go for it.
I'm
Today.
gonna pick Oklahoma State. Like you said, Mason Rudolph is a Heisman contender, and I like what Wyatt said. I think Iowa State is out of upsets. You only get so many per year, and I think they're out of them. So I'm gonna pick Oklahoma State.
All right, we're getting now into some more important games with some serious playoff implications here. 7 o'clock on ESPN. It's SEC Showtime in Stark Vegas. Saban's Super Team versus Mullins Motley Crew. Number 2, Alabama at number 16, Mississippi State.
I'm going Alabama. I can't pick Mississippi State as an upset. Alabama's just too good. Like, they look good every week. They dominate everyone. I actually think they should be number 1 in the college football playoff. But
Hot takes.
Okay.
but that's just me. But I like Alabama.
I thought you were about to steal my thunder. Upset pick of the week. Mississippi State,
snap.
Stark
There had to be
Vegas.
somebody.
Nick Fitzgerald,
Stop.
dual threat quarterbacks that have
Stop.
given Nick Saban's team a struggle in the past. I really think it's going to creep up to get him. Alabama's looking forward. They're really, right now, they're just focused on trying to be number 1 in the country, and I think they're not even worried about
Yeah.
Mississippi State. I'm going to go with the upset here.
Not so fast, my friend. Firing it right at you because you gave it earlier. Alabama wins this one. The Smash Mouth D is going to come into play. They're only
Smash
allowing
Mouth.
9.8 points per game. 9.8. They're not allowing double digits. That is insane. Alabama gets the job done again today.
I just think Alabama has way too much talent to lose to Mississippi State today. Overall, they haven't lost to Mississippi State in about 10 years. I don't think it's going to happen today. I'm sorry. It's Alabama.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Bama too. Bradley mentioned Nick Fitzgerald. He's a pretty good dual threat, but he also has 10 interceptions on the year. That's not a great stat. I think Bama's a 2-touchdown favorite. I think they'll cover the spread. I think they'll win by 2 touchdowns.
Got a fun fact for you for that. When you said Urban Meyer's never lost 2 games in a row, Nick Saban has never lost to a Dan Mullen coach football team. Dan Mullen is 0 in his attempts to beat Nick Saban in their coaching careers. So for what that's worth, like you said, it's first time for everything. We'll see how it goes down in Starkville tonight. 3:30 CBS, Kirby and Gus. That's not a cartoon. It's a head coaching duel in this one. We got a playoff preliminary being played on the Plains. Number 1 Georgia at number 10 Auburn.
War Eagle all the way. Upsets. I come on the show, I say upsets. I'm going with Auburn. Georgia has played well. I will say they have dominated everyone, but because it's at Auburn, I like the way their defense is. They looked really well the past couple of weeks. I know they had that loss to LSU, but at home, I got to go with Auburn.
2 very similar teams. They run the ball well and they play a lot of defense. Got to go with the Dogs in this one. I think in the trenches they're going to end up winning this game. I love the backfield for Georgia, and I think in the end it's going to be like the Clemson game. It's going to be a low-scoring game that they pulled out.
For sure.
Not so fast again. Look, it's been a crazy season. It's about to get crazier. We mentioned earlier this is a potential to be a chaotic week. I think this is where the chaos really begins. Number 1's going down. These teams, like you said, they're similar. They're a lot more similar than you might think. Their points per game. Georgia, 36.6. Auburn, 39.9. Points allowed per game. Georgia, 11.7. At Auburn, 16.9. Their total yards are within about 20 yards of one another. Their yards allowed are within about 50 of one another. These 2 teams are almost identical, but I think the home field advantage comes into play. Auburn gets the job done with a lot to prove.
Hey, games are not won on paper, man. You got to win them on the field.
Yeah, and
Love those
Auburn's
stats.
going to do it on the field.
I like it. I like it, Wyatt.
All right, well, I'm going with Georgia on this one. I'm impressed by the freshman
girl.
quarterback. He succeeded under a lot of pressure by South Carolina, which wasn't expected, but I think if his defense backs him up, it's going to be Georgia.
I'm picking Auburn. I'm picking War Eagle. Jake
Eagle.
Fromm is a freshman. He's eventually going to have to throw the ball because Auburn's rush defense is top 25 in the country. He's only had 300 yards passing once, and it was against Missouri. You know how good they are at playing football these days.
Not good.
Against Florida they did pretty well, but other than that, they haven't done very well. So I'm picking Auburn.
War Dam Eagle, Bears taking the upset in that one as well. Another prayer in Jordan Hare might be answered there. Go Tigers in that one. We got a playoff knockout in Norman this evening, 8 o'clock on Fox. These teams are combined 0-2 against Iowa State this year, so I'm calling this game a clash of Cyclone victims. We got Gary Patterson's gang against Baker's Dozen, number TCU at number 5 Oklahoma.
Kenny Hill, it's a battle of the quarterbacks. Kenny Hill versus Baker Mayfield. This is going to be so fun to watch. It's going to be 192 probably because that's a Big 12 shootout. That's how it is. Baker Mayfield gets it done. This is his Heisman game. He throws for like 4 or 5 touchdowns. He's going all out. I like Baker Mayfield and the Sooners.
You're right. It's going to come down to the quarterbacks. I think Kenny Hill's has been a little bit too inconsistent. If we get the Kenny Hill we saw back when he was playing before, I think there's a chance that TCU wins. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield in the end. I think they gets the job done and keeps his Heisman contender going forward.
Yep.
The double not so fast.
Oh, no.
I'm taking the Horned Frogs.
TCU.
Look, Mason Rudolph was supposed to have a showcase game, his Heisman game against TCU, and look what happened. The TCU defense ripped him to shreds. The same thing's supposed to happen with Baker Mayfield. Today is when Baker Mayfield loses the Heisman to the TCU defense. The Horned Frogs come up strong. They're only allowing 284.1 yards per game and 13.9 points per game. That does not spell good for a Oklahoma offense, for an Oklahoma team that relies on offense. TCU relies on defense, but they can beat you with offense. Dude, their one loss, they lost. They only allowed 14 points.
They scored 7, though.
They scored 7, but I think they show up a little bit better because I don't have faith in that Oklahoma defense.
Ooh, a little bit better.
I have faith in the TCU
they're gonna have
defense.
to score about 50 points better if you want to beat Oklahoma, so it'll be interesting.
Hey, I'm siding on Wyatt with this one. I'm going
you.
TCU.
Okay.
I think Oklahoma's defense is a disaster on, third downs. They allow 40% or more conversions. TCU's defense has only allowed 27 points over the last month. So I think that's a lot to take into consideration. Obviously, it's going to be a close game, I think, because Baker Mayfield. But I think TCU has the defense to stop Mayfield today.
Yeah, this is a tough pick for me. I'm picking Oklahoma just because they have Baker Mayfield, Heisman front runner. It'll be tough though. TCU is probably arguably the best defense in the Big 12, so I don't think it's going to be as much of a shootout as people might think. But I still think Baker Mayfield. I don't think he will lose it. I think he will further solidify his Heisman standing.
Baker Mayfield, 2 interceptions today, calling it.
Wow, that's a bold.
Wow.
Well, as solid as
that's not
TCU's defense is, they're going to have their hands full today. That Oklahoma offense averages over 500 yards a game, so a lot to contain on the offensive side of the ball for the Horned Frogs. 2 more games here, 8 o'clock, ABC, Catholics, Convicts. There's going to be a lot of wind and whiskey in this one with the Hurricanes and the Irish. Number 3, Notre Dame, at number 7, Miami.
I don't even know. I've been flip-flopping with this pick for a long time. I gotta go Notre Dame, honestly. Again, a team with momentum. I watched them when they played NC State, and I saw how much of a physical team they are. They really, offensive line is really good. I love their quarterback. And they're almost there, but just not there. Those games where they played against Georgia Tech, and they just didn't look as well, I just don't see them propelling on the big stage. So I gotta go with Notre Dame.
The U's probably a year away, I think, still. I love what Mark Rick's doing. Really, it's going to come down to, after Malik Rozier threw 3 picks last week, they were able to rebound really well. I think it's just going to be a little bit too much for him. I think Notre Dame's just too good of a team to not be able to capitalize on those mistakes. I'll go with the Irish on this one, taking the Catholics.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Fighting Irish here. This one was an easy pick for me.
Ooh.
Miami's
Easy pick.
about to get exposed, y'all. I'm telling you.
Uh-oh.
Look. Miami.
That's your favorite word today.
Hashtag exposed.
They're about to get exposed. Look, yeah, they're undefeated, but everybody's giving Wisconsin a hard time for being a poor undefeated. You want to talk about a poor undefeated? It's the Hurricanes. They gave up. They barely beat UNC. UNC by 5 points.
They had
That
one
should
win.
not happen.
That is true.
That should not happen. They barely beat Georgia Tech by 1 point. It came down to the very end. That should not happen. This Florida State team, I get that it's a rivalry game, but they only won by 4 points. With the way Florida State's played this season, shouldn't have happened. Miami's about to get their feelings very hurt today.
Ooh.
White Street, my goodness.
I don't feel as strongly about that, but I will say that Notre Dame is going to win. Running back Josh Adams is in the Heisman conversation, and Miami is known for that turnover chain. They're ranked 10th
Chain.
nationally.
Love that.
They lead
Yeah,
the
love that.
ACC, but Notre Dame is tied for 5th fewest turnovers in the FBS at 7. So I think it's going to be a battle against their strengths. It's going to be really hard, but I got to go with Notre Dame.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be a clean sweep with the Fighting Irish. I'm picking Notre Dame as well.
Is that our first clean sweep today?
Yeah.
South Carolina.
No, South Carolina.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. No, but like Wyatt said, they beat FSU by 4. They beat Georgia Tech by 1. They beat Syracuse by 8, which is more impressive than the other ones. And they beat UNC, who had 1 win at the time, by 5. Like Wisconsin, they haven't played anybody except for Virginia Tech. But I'm still not a huge believer, even after that Virginia Tech victory. And I think as Wyatt said, they are going to get exposed and their feelings hurt. So Notre Dame.
Let me get that quintuple not so fast, my friends. The Bears taking the upset in this one.
Uh-oh.
Give me Miami at home, 3+ turnovers. I'll call it now. 2 of those are going to be Brandon Wimbush interceptions. Look, Notre Dame's only going to go as far as Josh Adams can run with them. Brandon Wimbush, don't trust him as a quarterback. Give me Miami in an upset.
Okay.
Last game here on the slate, 3:30 ESPN. If you watched this game about 12 years ago, you'd have called it the Bowden Bowl. Nowadays, you just call it the Bo Bowl. We got Jimbo and Dabo, and there is no way Florida State wins this game. Florida State at number 4, Clemson.
Florida State 27-24 in one of the biggest upsets. This is a rivalry game.
Fellas, we have to
if
keep
you
going
guys
this
know.
panel.
This is a rivalry game. Florida State's going to come for this. This is their Super Bowl. They have nothing left. They're not
true.
going to a bowl game. They will shock us, and there'll be a reality check for us. And we're just going to go to a New Year's Six Bowl.
Man.
I want to go to the national championship, but 27-24 Florida State.
In the famous words of Alex Mueller, that's just too wild. I can't go with that. Clemson bringing out the orange britches. Dabo's got these guys focused. They're healthy. They're hungry, and they're ready to make a run. I got Clemson by I'll go 15 points.
You guys smell that? I smell some garbage, and it's called the Florida State offensive line.
Whoa.
So many.
You know what happened last year between these two teams? You know why Florida State lost?
Why is that?
Offensive line couldn't handle the front 7 of Clemson. You know what's going to happen again today? The offensive line won't be able to handle the front 7 of Clemson.
I agree.
Why do you think their starting quarterback is out for the season? Their offensive line couldn't protect him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly surprised James Blackman is still alive. Look, he's good,
My goodness.
but he can only go as far as he's allowed to go, and that offensive line doesn't allow him to go far.
He's skinny as a twig.
You're gonna see Wyatt. You will see at around 7 o'clock when we're all crying.
You
Man.
you'll see when you're crying.
Thomas will be
joy.
smiling. Thomas have a big smile on his face when that
No, you
happens.
better not be smiling. We're close.
We clinch our spot in the championship game today.
I don't know how to follow Wyatt today. He is
fired up.
He is fired up. He is ready for this game. I do think though that Thomas brings up an interesting point that Florida State has absolutely nothing to lose at this point.
Nothing at all.
Their season is pretty much over with, and they're going to play with their heart and soul.
They are.
It's a big
Everything's
rivalry
coming
game,
out.
and you can't take any team for granted regardless of their schedule. But I gotta side with Clemson on this one. I think that if the defense is strong, if Kelly Bryant plays his best game and doesn't, miss too many passes and is just strong and confident in his playing abilities, and I think that everyone else will follow suit for that. So I think Clemson.
Yeah, I'm gonna be picking Clemson too. I don't think James Blackman is really ready for the atmosphere that he's going to be stepping into. He's just a freshman, and their offensive line, like we've all said, is basically garbage, and our D line is the opposite of garbage. We're like a recycling plant, I guess. But I pick Clemson. They're a 2-touchdown favorite. I think I'll pick them by, say, 10 points.
Tell James Blackman to come back and gain about 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Like a stick figure, and maybe then I'll give him a chance.
Like, home field advantage and
Think some
experience for
milk.
Clemson will be the factors.
Wow.
Exactly. Well, I think that concludes our final episode of the season. Very bittersweet, but thank you so much for everyone involved, everyone on the show, behind the scenes, behind the cameras, working super hard to get this show working. So thank you guys for watching, and it's been a great season. And as always, go Tigers.
See you in the fall.
Go Tigers.